What the hell did I just watch? I am so utterly confused, I have to talk about it. Because I just finished the PlayStation 5 reveal. And yes, I have to put that in quotes because they didn't show any games, they didn't show the box, they didn't even give us a good look at the controller itself. But they did give us some details that are just enough that I want to dig into, but this is just not at all what anybody expected. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and there's this thing that's been hyped up for a bit, which is people have been waiting for the official unveiling of the PlayStation 5, the next generation of Sony hardware. A lot of us are incredibly excited about it, especially because Microsoft just keeps talking about their tech. The Xbox Series X has had the box shown, there's been leaked pictures of people playing it, there's pictures of the controller, and now even screenshots of its graphical updates. But now Sony has decided to take the stage and do an hour-long conference that was nothing but pure technical jargon. It was completely directed at game developers and nobody else. This should not have been advertised. Just to be completely honest, right up front, this was strange. I don't think that we were supposed to see this. This was obviously originally intended to be just a part of the Game Developers Conference, a way to try and entice people. The entire hour of this presentation was Mark Cerny, who we can all admit is a super genius of console design. He was out there and very calmly and very chill, just telling us about why his console is going to be the butter on my biscuits. Well, Mark Cerny, as good as he is, this data is not something that gamers need to know. I mean, you can tell me about getting sound from 18 different directions, but I just want to see the games. I want to see why things are great. Okay, now that I'm done rage moding for a second, I do want to talk about some of the stuff in here that I found incredibly fascinating. Most importantly, they talked a lot about what the main goal of the PlayStation 5 is, which is enabling developers, trying to make it where everybody is going to want to put their games on PlayStation 5 first. And one of the main things they're doing this with is the SSD, the solid state drive. And they talked a lot about the infinite possibilities of the PlayStation 5. Some of the things they said is, like, as an example, they talked about when you're playing a game, this is Doom Eternal right here. Whenever you're playing Doom or you're playing any game right here, it's constantly trying to load the environments around you. It's constantly trying to load each of these textures and stuff. And sometimes if you go too quick, it can have trouble trying to make sure that each and every little piece of the graphics are super pristine. That's why sometimes you'll have that blurriness, especially if you're like driving really fast in a car or if you fall down into like a sewer grate. Sometimes you end up with this blurriness because the game is trying to load lots and lots of textures. Apparently, the PlayStation 5 is going to be 4K, have some great freaking frame rates, but also borderline able to process things behind you. It will be 360 constantly doing everything in every direction, so every time you blast your gun or use a cool super attack, the game is ready before you're ready for it. One of the other things they said that I thought was really fascinating is they're really trying to convey that the solid state drive is going to be a literal game changer. The way that people create worlds with this system is going to be totally different. One of the things they said is a lot of games right now have fast travel, right? If you're playing like Horizon Zero Dawn or Red Dead Redemption, anything that's super massive, there's typically some sort of system that lets you teleport very swiftly around the map. And normally when it does this, you have a loading screen. This loading screen has to rebuild the entire universe around you in the new spot. Well, they said with solid state hard drives, some of their testing, the fast travel is actually so quick, they had to slow it down or it would freak gamers out. Like, imagine if you were just trying to fast travel and it was instantaneous. It would actually trip out your brain to see your character going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So that to me is definitely intriguing. A lot of the other data in here though was just so overwhelming. Things about like how echoes are going to work. 3D ray tracing is going to be able to affect different layers of sound and lighting to make it where everything in the universe is going to be much more lifelike. Graphically, I think we all realize that the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, these new consoles are going to be very good. But now that they've actually talked about the raw hardware, okay, so some people are going to celebrate this. the PlayStation 5 is a tiny step below the Xbox Series X visually. Looking at the actual hardware, there are less terabytes. I don't think that as gamers we're really going to notice this, because what we realize now is, as game developers talk, we know that most games are aimed at a lower tier and scaled up. I think that all the PlayStation 5 games, a lot of these cross-party ones, are also going to be on the Xbox Series X. So I think that all these games are going to look pretty much identical. I mean, maybe they'll have a little extra frame rate, a little bit extra pizzazz and flair and particle effects on the Xbox Series X, but these are basically in complete parity. It's pretty clear that everything is going to look very, very good when it comes out. Now, the things that I was most curious about, the two giant things that I really want to focus this video on that they did actually confirm is backwards compatibility, which is incredibly important to me, and a release date. Now, something I was incredibly nervous about is obviously this stuff going on worldwide. A lot of people are getting sick, a lot of stuff is actually being evacuated, and even people who put together consoles and stuff over in factories are now actually out of work. So a lot of us, myself included, are kind of assuming that the next generation of consoles are definitely going to be delayed. Even if just like a month, it does seem like we're possibly going to have things pushed back. But Mark Cerny, while he was up on stage, directly said the words, "You'll be playing a PlayStation 5 later this year." So that confirms it's still a 2020 release date. That's good. I mean, just to be honest, I was very, very worried that this would get pushed back 2 or 3 months or something. And I do think that in order for these systems to be a success, they need a good release window. But more importantly, now this is a little bit of a messy topic, backwards compatibility. Now in my mind, when I think about backwards compatibility, I think about what Xbox has been doing, where the original Xbox games work, Xbox 360 games work, Xbox One games work. I mean, they're trying to make it where there's this giant bubble of gaming and everything is just combined in it. PlayStation, they've been in a different space. The idea at Sony is definitely, here's where we're trying to do. We're trying to make the current games as good as possible. But there has been some rumblings that they were trying to create backwards compatibility. And they talked about it here in a very unfortunate way. The biggest thing being, they've now confirmed that PlayStation 4 games are going to work on the PlayStation 5. In fact, they're going to be upgraded, so they'll look better than the PlayStation 4 Pro. But not all of them are going to work. Unfortunately, yes, this is true. They confirmed it. They basically said that most games for the PlayStation 4 will work on the PlayStation 5 at release. But not all of them. Now, they did say something that sort of implies that they're working on patches and stuff. More will become backwards compatibility over time. More stuff will be playable. But to me, this is a big downside. One of my favorite things to do a lot of times is when the next console generation comes out, I very ceremoniously will pack up my previous generation. A lot of times I go, okay, now that the PlayStation 3 is done, I'm going to retire it and put it in the rest of my collection. And now I just have the PlayStation 4. I was very genuinely looking forward to the day when I could wind up my controller cords and plug in my PlayStation 5 and just start to play my huge PlayStation 4 collection only on the PlayStation 5. And now I know that won't be possible. The additional weirdness to this, though, is that they've still not talked about other generations. They've only really mentioned the PlayStation 4, and that's it. They haven't said anything about being able to play PlayStation 3 games, PS2, PS1. So what does this really mean? Just speculating for a second, I still fully believe that these older games will come to the PlayStation 5. And the reason I believe that is there's this quote right here where they were talking a lot about the solid state drive, and they said that it's going to be roughly a terabyte of storage, which is pretty big. But let's face facts, that is going to fill up incredibly rapidly because a lot of these PlayStation 5 games are going to have 4K textures. The files of them are going to be utterly massive, even with big Blu-ray discs. So what does this mean? Well, they've said there will be external storage. You'll have the ability to plug in any hard drive you want directly into your PlayStation 5 and start to put extra files on that. And the reason they brought this up is that older games, backwards compatibility games, these are going to be tinier files. So you could, on one 500 gig hard drive, you could put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of PlayStation 1 games. Each of these, let me grab one, let's get, there we go. Spyro Ripto's Rage. This is actually just a couple megabytes. You could fit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of all these tiny games on a hard drive. And so if you were trying to make more space for your current gen PlayStation 5 games, it sounds like they're suggesting that you can install all your retro stuff on the PlayStation 5 via external hard drive. I'm glad that they're doing this expandable stuff. I'm glad that they're talking to developers, but let's face it, this reveal was really stale. I actually recorded my entire reaction to it. I filmed myself watching it because I thought that there might be some giant surprise, like Final Fantasy 16 or something. And instead, it was pretty much just me sitting here, staring at Mark Cerny and listening to his soothing face, and hoping that they would reveal the box. Hoping that they would show me the controller. Hoping that they would just show anything. Give me a clip of gameplay, Mark Cerny. What in the heck? Okay, well, these have just been my off-the-cuff thoughts about the freaking conference. Do not watch it. I'm being dead serious. People have already written the stuff out. If you want your own recap of the events, go read some articles. It is not worth the hour of watching a guy talk about, like, echo tracing. I mean, oh my gosh. PlayStation, you had to do this event. Let's face it, this was mandatory. You needed to come out on stage and talk to game developers and explain what the next generation is going to be like. But this should not have been something that the general public saw. This was not hype. This was not interesting to most people. The live stream chat was people spamming Z's. But I guess you tried. What do you guys think? Tell me your comments in the tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Mark Cerny, for such a genius, this guy, I don't know, man, put on a magician's costume and do some card tricks or something, right? It worked for Randy Pitchford. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.